All right, let's talk about hydrogen. We're always told it's the ultimate clean fuel. But here's the thing. You stick it inside an engine, and it can get, well, a little wild. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the three big troublemakers inside a hydrogen engine, the very things engineers are racing to figure out. So, if hydrogen burns so clean, why aren't our highways just packed with hydrogen cars? It's a great question, right? I mean, we hear it all the time. Hydrogen's the perfect clean fuel. You burn it, you get water. Simple. So what's the catch? Well, it turns out that inside the high-pressure world of an engine, hydrogen has let's just say, a wild side. Okay, so before we get to the problems, let's talk about the promise. Because on paper, hydrogen as a fuel for an internal combustion engine, it seems almost too good to be true. Just look at this list. It's pretty amazing. You get no carbon dioxide, no carbon monoxide, no unburnt hydrocarbons, no smoke, no soot, none of the nasty stuff we associate with burning fuel. The only really undesirable thing you have to deal with is NOx, or oxides of nitrogen, and that just happens when air itself gets super, super hot. When you put that up against gasoline, wow, it's not even a contest. It's a spectacular improvement. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? Here's the twist. The very things that make hydrogen burn so clean and so fast, its unique chemical properties, also make it incredibly tricky to control. It's really prone to what engineers call abnormal combustion. So, let's dive into what happens when that combustion goes wrong. It's time to meet the villains of our story. We're going to break down the three main types of abnormal combustion that have been giving hydrogen engineers headaches for decades. These are the troublemakers.
All right, first up we have pre-ignition. Now, think about a normal engine, right? The piston compresses the fuel and air, and then at the perfect moment, the spark plug fires. Boom. But with pre-ignition, something else in the cylinder, a hot spot, gets so hot that it lights the mixture early. It happens before the spark plug is supposed to do its job. It's exactly like a sprinter jumping the gun in a race.
Next, we have backfire. Now, this is even crazier. This is when combustion starts so ridiculously early that the intake valve is still open, and what happens? The flame shoots backward right into the intake manifold. The analogy here is perfect. It's like the engine is literally sneezing fire. And as you can imagine, that's not just inefficient, it's super dangerous and can absolutely wreck engine parts. And that brings us to our third troublemaker, knock. Now, this one's different. Unlike the other two, knock happens after the spark plug is already fired correctly. As that main flame is spreading across the cylinder, the leftover fuel and air on the other side gets so squeezed and so hot that it just gives up and explodes all at once. It's a violent, uncontrolled detonation. So you see, timing is absolutely everything here. It's the key difference. You've got pre-ignition and backfire. Those are problems that happen before the spark. The party starts too early. Then you've got knock, which is a second, uncontrolled explosion that happens after the spark. Getting this distinction down is crucial to understanding how to fix these issues. Okay, so why? What is it about hydrogen that makes it behave this way? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Researchers have used some pretty incredible technology to unmask these troublemakers and figure out what's really going on. So for pre-ignition and backfire, research points to three main culprits. First, you've got the obvious stuff, hot spots. Think of a glowing hot spark plug tip or a valve edge acting like a tiny match. You can also get these little continuous combustion reactions hiding in the tiny gaps around the piston rings. But that first one on the list, abnormal spark discharge, that one is probably the most fascinating of all.
Yeah, an abnormal spark discharge. We're not talking about a hot piece of metal here. This is an electrical problem. And it all comes down to the fundamental, unique properties of a hydrogen flame itself.
And this comparison shows the issue perfectly. Get this. After a spark plug fires, there's always a little bit of leftover electrical energy in the ignition coil. Now, in a gasoline engine, the flame itself is full of charged particles, ions. So it acts like a wire. It lets that leftover energy safely leak away. But a hydrogen flame, it has way, way fewer ions. It acts more like an electrical insulator. That means the energy gets trapped, building up in the ignition system until zap, it can discharge again as a weak, unwanted second spark at the absolute worst possible time, causing pre-ignition or a backfire. How wild is that? Okay, now let's circle back to knock. This quote really gets to the core of why it's so incredibly destructive. That uncontrolled explosion sends a shockwave that basically blasts away the protective layer of cooler gas that normally insulates the metal parts. And once that shield is down, the raw, intense heat of combustion slams right into the piston and the cylinder wall. We're talking about damage that can literally melt metal. So what does this actually look like in real time? Well, thanks to some absolutely incredible high-speed cameras, I'm talking cameras that can shoot hundreds of thousands of frames per second, researchers have been able to watch a knocking event happen millisecond by agonizing millisecond. So it all starts out just fine. The spark plug fires right on schedule, and you see a normal flame front begin to spread out from the spark. It's moving across the combustion chamber, compressing that unburnt fuel and air, what engineers call the end gas, that's waiting ahead of it. But then it happens. Squeezed by the intense pressure and baked by the heat from that advancing flame, the end gas reaches its breaking point. It doesn't wait its turn to be burned. It just spontaneously ignites, all at once. A second brilliant fireball erupts on the far side of the cylinder. And this isn't a gentle burn, this is a detonation. It creates a massive, powerful pressure wave. Researchers have actually clocked this wave, and it's moving at over 1,100 meters per second. That is more than 3 times the speed of sound, ricocheting around inside that tiny space, just hammering the piston in the cylinder head. You know that high-pitched pinging sound you sometimes hear from an old engine? That is what you're hearing. Okay, so this all sounds pretty dire, I know, but engineers are, incredibly clever people, and they have developed a whole toolkit of strategies to tame these violent behaviors and to make the hydrogen engine a reliable, powerful reality. It's really a multi-pronged attack plan. They go after every cause we just talked about. They optimize the shape of spark plugs and add better cooling to get rid of hot spots. They redesign the whole ignition system to reduce that leftover energy. But probably one of the most powerful tools in their entire toolkit is a strategy called direct injection. Direct injection is a total game changer, especially for that nasty backfire problem. See, instead of mixing the fuel and air way back in the intake manifold where it can light up too early, the injector sprays hydrogen straight into the cylinder after the intake valve has already closed. It's brilliant. If there's no fuel in the intake path, there's zero possibility of a backfire. It's just a really elegant solution to a dangerous problem. But here's where the story takes a final and honestly the most exciting turn. What if? What if we've been looking at this whole thing wrong? What if the engine's single biggest problem could actually be its greatest secret weapon? Just look at this idea. On one hand, you have engine knock. That's bad. It's uncontrolled, it's destructive, it's an explosion you don't want. But what if you could control it? What if you could time that auto ignition perfectly, making it happen at the exact right moment to get an instant, super efficient burn across the whole cylinder at once? Well, researchers are working on that right now. It's a radical concept, sometimes called premier combustion. They are literally trying to turn that violent knock into a controlled, massive power-up. And that just leaves us with this one fascinating thought. By deeply understanding and finally taming the wild physics of abnormal combustion, we might not just be solving a problem, we might be unlocking a whole new level of power and efficiency. So could an engine's biggest flaw actually become its greatest strength? That's the question engineers are racing to answer. Thanks for watching The Explainer.